From worst to best, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past bosses. The greatest 2D Zelda game and one of the top titles in the entire series, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past is a classic. With amazing dungeons and series-building innovations, this game was a turning point for the franchise and immediately became the standard-bearer. It also has some awesome bosses that we are going to jump right into today on this episode of From Worst to Best. Here's how they're ranked. The battle itself, how it plays, and its strategies. How does the battle affect the main character at the time of the fight? The lore behind the boss, and the boss's design and setting. Name pronunciations may be different than yours, and this is specifically discussing the Super Nintendo version of the game. Also, lore will be pretty light on this one, as most of the bosses have very little information, even from guides and manuals. So let's get started with the boss battle that is ranked the lowest. Maldorm. The slithering worm monster Maldorm guards the Pendant of Wisdom at the top of the Tower of Hera. Link has worked hard to come this far in his journey, and finds Maldorm as the third big boss for him to battle. The goofy worm creature looks like a character right out of Vector Man. The setting is pretty cool at the top of the dungeon, which used a lot of pitfalls to drop you down to previous levels to get through it. But the reason this is last is because the battle can be super annoying, especially for new players. Maldorm has sporadic, unpredictable movements and will bounce Link around at every turn. Normally, this wouldn't be an issue, except for the fact that Link can be knocked off the stage to the levels below, and when you make your way back up to the top, you have to restart the battle from the beginning, which pretty much sucks. You could try to maneuver if you're comfortable and experienced in the game, and another tip that works for me is holding the charge spin while pushing against the wall and not letting it go. Holding your sword right out, Maldorm will throw his vulnerable tail right into your blade. Slaying this monster awards Link with the third pendant and moves him toward the Master Sword. By the time you have a rematch with this guy, you're a lot stronger, but you still have to worry about those same pitfalls. Mothula. In the Dark World, deep in the Skull Woods, Link finds himself facing off against the giant killer Mothula. The battle begins on moving floors with blade traps surrounding the area and shifting across the ground to cut Link. Mothula itself is an orange and violet large moth creature. Its weaknesses are the Fire Rod, Master Sword, and Magic Hammer. Mothula will blast 3 angles of fireballs with the floor moving. This battle can be pretty brutal. It's recommended to have the 1/2 magic upgrade from Mad Batter for this battle, or a lot of magic potions. Other strategies that work are to use the Magic Cape or Cane of Birna to prevent damage and take Mothula down. Because of the extra dangers, this battle always seemed like chaos to me. If you follow the number order on the map, this is Link's 3rd Dark World dungeon and his most challenging temple up to that point. As a little fun fact, Mothula is the only boss that can be damaged by the Good Bee if released by Link in battle. Vitreous. In the putrid bogs of Misery Mire, Link encounters the vicious Vitreous in a mucky green room. Vitreous is a cluster of small eyeballs surrounding a larger one, covered in green slime. There are a lot of eyeball-like bosses in this game, and Vitreous always felt like one of the weaker to me. Link needs to stay out of the slime and deal with the smaller eyeballs launched at him, and occasionally avoid Aghanim-like lightning strikes. Arrows and regular sword slashes can take this guy down, and honestly, a lot of this battle can be completed by standing completely still and slashing away. When the big eye emerges, Link needs to be a little more careful, but still doesn't have too much trouble taking this guy out. In this footage run, I literally just stood still and took him out with arrows. He's a late game notch in Link's belt, who's taken out plenty of tougher challenges by this point. Landmalos. In the sandy reaches of the Desert Temple, Landmalos emerge from the sand to attempt to bring Link's journey to an abrupt end. Sandworms are a staple in the Zelda series, and Landmalos fit the niche. These creatures pop out of the sand trying to get under Link and launch rocks at Link when they emerge. He can only harm their heads when they first come out of the ground, or right when they're about to re-enter it. Link can hurt them with sword strikes, preferably spin attacks, bombs, arrows, and interestingly enough, the Ice Rod, which is the strongest weapon that can harm them. You face Landmalos again in Ganon's tower, but they don't stand a chance against your powered-up Master Sword or your silver arrows. As the second major boss Link faces, this is a great victory for our hero and grants him the Pendant of Power. Argus. In the second Dark World dungeon, the Swamp Palace, Link locks eyes with Argus, a floating red squid-like eye that surrounds itself with little Argy. This type of boss is another Zelda trope now, but was pretty innovative at the time. Link makes use of the hook shot to pull the smaller Argy within reach of his blade. After taking them all out, he can focus on the large eye of Argus. With no protection, the monster will leap to the ceiling and try to smash Link from above. He will also quickly slide across the wet arena. Link can slash at this foe, or use the Ice Rod to defeat him. Argus is still a fairly early boss for Link, but acts as a way to master his new hookshot. Cold Stare. The Ice Palace boss gives off a menacing cold stare as Link is ready to bring the heat. Cold Stare starts this battle off immersed in ice as projectile ice rains down on you from the ceiling. You can either melt it with the Fire Rod or more efficiently with the Bombos Medallion. When this white eye cloud emerges, he splits into three with more ice still raining down on the slippery floor, disorientating our hero. This guy is personally my favorite out of all of the eyeball bosses in this game, and I think the fight is really fun. Definitely get the magic upgrade before doing this tempo, as it makes it way easier to utilize your magic efficiently. This fifth Dark World Palace is one of the trickier tests for Link, and he's able to emerge freeing another maiden and with a slick new outfit. Agony. Agony the Wizard is Link's main Light World opponent and the boss of Ganon's tower. His boss fight is a game of Dead Man's Volley. The dude has a great design and is one of the few main bosses to get lore. Agony manipulated the Hyrulean king, using his magic to stop disasters to gain favor. Once in a position of power, he disposed of the king and brainwashed the guards to work for him and become far more aggressive. Agony is also the villain responsible for abducting 6 of the maidens and sending them to the Dark World. Later revealed to be an alter ego of Ganon, Link takes Agony on twice, first in a hidden room in Hyrule Castle, and second at the top of Ganon's tower. One thing really cool about him, besides his dope design, is the fact that even the Master Sword can't harm him. He uses multiple illusions, magic blasts, and electricity to attack. Link must reflect the magic blasts back at Agony to do any damage, which can be done by swinging the Master Sword or by using your bug-catching net. This diabolical wizard is actually pretty badass and calculating, even sacrificing Zelda right in front of Link. If his battle were a little better, he could have topped this list. For Link, finally getting a chance to take this guy down after coming so close and being banished to the Dark World was a huge, satisfying victory. Armos Knights. After making his way through the Eastern Palace, Link comes face to face with a mighty legion of Armos Knights. Putting these guys up so high might be a stretch for some, but the Armos Knights are iconic to me. A Link to the Past was one of my first major childhood games, and this initial boss battle was groundbreaking. I always thought their designs were awesome as these super badass knights, and the battle movements and overwhelming odds for Link to fight through felt so cool. Plus, it was the first time in the game you got to hear that intense boss fight music. Link faces these warriors head-on and can slash his sword and utilize his new bow to take them down. After defeating the first 5 blue knights, the 6th becomes furious, red, and moves in for the kill. You have a second battle with these warriors later on an icy floor in Ganon's tower, but your stronger Master Sword and silver arrows absolutely wreck these guys. I have a soft spot for first battles in these ranking videos, and this first victory was a pivotal point for Link, granting him the Pendant of Courage. Ganon. The big bad and final boss of A Link to the Past is Ganon, the blue pig trident-wielding badass. Ganon is a master manipulator and ruthless warrior. In A Link to the Past, he slaughters his own minions to be the only holder of the Triforce. His wish created the Dark World and also shifted him into his evil pig form, as it does for those without a Moon Pearl. The Dark World battled the Light until the Hyruleans and the Seven Sages sealed him and the Dark World away. During A Link to the Past, we find that Agony is trying to break the seal and release the King of Evil, which he does up until his fight with Link. After Aghanim's defeat at the top of Ganon's tower, a shadow Ganon emerges, transforms into a bat, and breaks into the Pyramid of Power. The final confrontation with Link is awesome in that setting, with great music and odds stacked against our hero. Ganon is super strong and is formidable with his trident and fire magic. The battle is straightforward at first, dodging fire keys and slashing Ganon when you have the chance. When he gets hit enough, he will knock down all of the floor pieces against the walls, adding an element of danger with the risk of falling and needing to restart the fight. As the battle evolves, Ganon darkens the room and teleports around. Link needs to light the torches and stun Ganon with silver arrows to do damage and slash away. Defeating him is Link's final accomplishment in the game and brings our hero to the Triforce. Trinex. On the peaks of the Dark World's volcanic Death Mountain lies Turtle Rock, a dungeon with Link's most intimidating foe. Trinex is awesome. His design is phenomenal with 3 heads, 2 of which are elemental with fire and ice. He stands menacingly with blade traps surrounding him. Our hero needs to stun each elemental head with the opposite elemental rod and slash away. I suggest taking out the ice head first to prevent it from making ice hazards. Once both the fire and ice heads are destroyed, a stone serpent of Trinex emerges and tries to defeat Link. A few slashes to its glowing center, and this behemoth is defeated. This battle is actually pretty easy, all things considered. If you're careful and accurate with your magic, you shouldn't have any problems, which is really the only reason why Trinex isn't higher. Link is a monster at this point of the game weapon-wise. He frees Zelda after defeating this creature, which is a huge turning point for his quest as he gets ever so close to the King of Evil. Blind the Thief. In the village of outcasts under Gargoyle's domain, Link finds a mysterious woman looking for an escape. Of course, our hero does his best to help, but his suspicions are there. He knows this woman doesn't have a Moon's Pearl, and she doesn't let him leave out the front entrance. As he enters the now sunlit boss room, the woman transforms into Blind the Thief, ready to destroy our hero. When I was a kid, this twist blew my mind. Playing as an adult, there are plenty of hints to Blind throughout the game, but I genuinely thought that this was one of the maidens that you needed to rescue growing up. We see the same type of twist years later in Twilight Princess with Blizzetta. Blind was a ruthless thief in the Light World and got trapped in the Dark World while looking for the Triforce. The Dark World transformed him into a powerful demon. Blind will flail around the room, blasting lasers at Link. Our hero needs to keep attacking Blind's head when he can, which will eventually send 2 floating invulnerable heads flying around the room, shooting fireballs at Link. Link needs to stay on the head attached to Blind's body to win. The Cane of Birna makes this battle pretty simple if you have the magic for it. Being the 4th dungeon of the Dark World, Link has built up some skills. Defeating Blind was pretty significant too, because this was a boss discussed and hinted at as early as your first trip to Kakariko Village. Helmesor King. Link's journey to the Dark World was a venture into the unknown. As he makes his way through the Palace of Darkness, he sees just what kind of monsters he must face in the Dark World. The Helmesor King is the boss I think of first when discussing A Link to the Past. There's something about the incredible design of this monster that just stuck with me. Link needs to smash the mask off this beast with either the magic hammer or bombs. When doing so, the creature reveals a menacing face and a massive green emerald on its forehead. Link needs to slash away at this while still dodging the monster's tail and its fireballs to defeat it. Something about this mask slowly chipping away still looks so cool to me. This guy also inspired the mechanics for the Helmesor King later seen in Wind Waker. Check out my worst to best on Wind Waker when you're done with this. And in Japan, the two monsters share a similar name. The Helmesor King is a crazy threat for Link to face, especially compared to what he had to deal with in the Light World. Destroying this creature was the first step in breaking the control Ganon had in the Dark World, and a pivotal moment for Link to show that nothing would stop him from saving Hyrule. And that's why it's the best. Thank you so much for watching, I really do appreciate it. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Check out my other From Worst to Best videos and some of the other episodes and series that I have on the channel, including Games We Love videos, which are short, sweet videos that talk about some of the greatest games in history, and Warriors Analysis, where I take an in-depth look, very similar to this series, on specific warriors throughout history, pop culture, and media. Thank you so much for watching, everybody.